Greatest time of any is to do the intro. So, hi, welcome to this week's session of Terpene Therapy. If you are a new listener, thank you for taking a chance and making a choice to check us out this week. Really appreciate you being here, and you're helping to build one of the terpiest communities that the world has ever seen up to this point. If you're a returning listener, it's like I say every single week, couldn't do it without you. We wouldn't want to anyways. And this week, we are over here at quite possibly the tiniest Terp Table that we have had on the podcast so far, on a beautiful lake that you all cannot see up here in Michigan with OG Hashcraft. Go ahead and tell the people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
How's it going? My name is Kevin, and I grow and make hash rosin alongside my wife, who's couldn't make it today, Lily. We try to be as single source as possible and try to bring competition quality to every jar that we produce.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time and taking a chance to come over here and just hang out, capture a conversation today. It's always lovely for me to be up here in Michigan. It's one of my I consider it like a second home almost at this point, and one of my favorite places for good quality hash rosin in general. And we are up here this weekend for which we're not going to discuss the entry. But we are up here for the Resin Rivals competition, and I guess we should go ahead and tell the people a little bit about what that is and maybe your involvement in it real quick.
Okay. Well, basically, this is the preliminary Underdog leg of Resin Rivals. Me, alongside 60, almost 70 other competitors, have never placed first, second, or first in a national competition. And essentially, this is our way to put our hat in the ring and have a potential to still stand out despite those shortcomings and make it to the final event in June, which I believe it's around like the 20th, 21st, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and that'll be up north, isn't it?
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait to make it out to that one. It's going to be a very fun time. It seems to be one of Michigan's biggest competitions so far. Do you know of any other ones that have reached 60 plus entries?
No, I think, to be honest, I really think that Resin Reserve's Michigan Makers Cup was a little underrated.
I had a great time there.
Yeah, that one should have got talked about more for sure.
Yeah.
And I would, shout out to him if he would like to revisit that. I still think that there's a lot of potential for that one. But as far as PR goes and everything, I think this is the largest covered one. It's bringing out really big names. I mean, even third gen Brandon, he's entering in the Underdog.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw that. He really wants to put his hat in the ring in that. And that goes to show how confident all of these makers are. He's like, I'm going to put my hat in the ring with all of you underdogs, and I'm going to go through.
What is that? So for someone, that's just a single source hash maker who maybe doesn't have, third gen Brandon's obviously one of the most recognizable names in the cannabis industry. How does that feel going up against, these larger names?
That's exactly what we want.
Exactly. Okay.
If Brandon picks up a jar and he's like, damn, this is fire, but he still wins, there's a reason everyone's at that table. Okay. I think that if you show up to a competition without thinking you have what it takes, you're making a mistake.
So having that mentality that there always is that possibility for you to take first is really sort of, the best way to go forward? Or do you think that there can be ways in which, do you think you could get too cocky?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Okay.
I want it, but it doesn't mean I expect it.
Okay.
I think I have what it takes, but if I don't get it, am I going to be upset? 1,000,000%, because obviously we all care. It's why we're trying to see where we stand. But it just makes me more hungry. We have, as a brand, only entered one other competition, which was a smoking jacket. And, we fell right in the middle because we didn't quite understand what to enter. And I think this time we have a better understanding of what will make it in a competition versus what we think are personally special terps that have the potential to stand out.
How do you go about making those selections for competitions? Just how do you personally approach it?
I'm really indecisive, so it's difficult. I'll usually have a lot of people who I hold in a high regard try it, sample it, give me their feedback. I got it. Nope. And a lot of gut.
Yeah.
You know, there is a few strains in our stable that I think have the potential to do good, but who's going to be judging? Like, you know, do we want to enter Skittles and then get to the competition, and at our table only one jar of Skittles is getting through? So now I'm getting compared to every Z-like terp. That's a risk. Do I want to go and enter something that I think is totally different that's going to set myself apart? That isn't like, you know, it's not like a banana or a Z or like a Sherby terp. Like, those are the kind of things that make me second guess myself, basically until the decision's made.
Okay.
Honest feedback from people whose palates I trust at this point.
Is that like a good way to sort of escape the biases that you might unintentionally have or display towards your own selection process?
Yeah, because sometimes I have to get multiple opinions, because sometimes, you know, you're like, man, he does feel this way, but is that just his personal bias now? So like once like 2 or 3 people tell me something and it really reaffirms it, I stop, you know, doubting and questioning everything. And my wife Lily, she has a lot to do with it also. She her palate is a little bit different than mine, but I love her favorite strain is my second favorite in our stable, and vice versa. So like our palates are just different enough to maybe not pigeonhole or put my head's, you know, like it helps me keep my head out of the sand a little bit.
More of a balanced perspective on things, you'd say. Yeah.
She's a little better at you know, keeping her head clear in those, where like sometimes I'll just get in my own head and like I said, I second guess myself all the time.
I think it's only natural, you know, especially as a single source producer, you're watching this entire process take place for months. Mm-hmm. And in that time, you know, you have to be focused and thinking about all of these different things. And naturally, I mean, if you're anything like me, it's going to lead to some overthinking, I would say.
1,000,000%. Yeah. Especially like, you know, we wanted to do better in the smoking jacket and we didn't. So,
right.
Lesson learned, you know.
So now you said earlier that you feel like, this might have been off camera, that you feel like the flavor that you selected just wasn't right for the judging that was going, the particular set of judges that you might have. So how do you pay it? Should you focus on like personal preferences or like regional preferences? Does that question make sense?
We were definitely thinking about the region and like, okay, the last 2 have been on the West Coast. This is an East Coast one. Are they going to want like more sour diesels? Are they going to want like
more of that gas?
Gas. Yeah. Because, you know, that's typically how it goes. All of the makers are still from around the world, or around the country at least.
Any international ones in this one?
I mean, like Lorenzo and Little Big Smoker were judges, so international panel of professional judges.
Okay, that could go
and that is a large part of the scorecard in that competition. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. It comes down to just having a killer stable to pick from. So like if you think like this region does have a bias towards this, have like 2 or 3 in your strain or your stable that you think are competition worthy. And that's like, you know, we're still growing. I would like to get to the point where I'm not totally like, I keep overselling. So I would like to get to the point where I can like take a big chunk out and like, this has been a killer harvest. Maybe we should hold on to this for a competition. But right. I also feel like every grow keeps getting a little better also. So like, I don't know.
Do you attribute that to maybe your method of cultivation?
Yeah. With living soil beds, I feel like they do only get better over time. Mm-hmm. We had we overwatered one time kind of early in veg, not this harvest, but last harvest. And it was
What does that do?
It kind of caused some of the plants to stretch out a little bit.
Okay.
They didn't produce quite as big nugs. It wasn't detrimental. It happened early on that it wasn't a big deal, but I feel like that impacted a little bit of resin on some of the plants. Which is the funny thing is like that stress at that amount of part of time could have like been beneficial.
See,
Like,
there's
you just never know.
And
those
that's
are the
thing.
variables that like keep me up at night, man.
Man, I tell you what, for me personally, it's like when I approach cultivating cannabis, I think about 100 different things that could be beneficial or detrimental as far as like stress. And it's like we were talking about before we started recording, it would be so hard to actually do a study on, not so hard, but it would take quite a while to do a study on, what really are the beneficial forms of, stress. Do we need to, instead of watering on, because we both do a similar thing, and I would imagine we water every 2 to 3 days. You ever take?
It depends. Usually I'm watering every day at least once I start getting into flower. Like week 3 or 4.
Okay.
Certain genetics really drink,
That is true. I'm learning that with I've got a Terpene number 6 from the homies Cammy Cat, and that one's just, she's thirsty for sure, especially compared to the it's like an amnesia lemon hash plant, which that one doesn't seem to really want much of anything. I feel like that came from sort of like an arid mountainous environment.
Right. That's funny.
The history.
Right. Like that's something we were talking about also, how much where these plants came from originally, their land race has influenced what they want as plants.
Do you think it's important as a grower to understand that? Like how much time do you think you should actually devote to focusing on that, maybe instead of just developing good rhythms in the garden? Or is it something that everybody should just do, just do a better job of?
There's a lot of downtime in gardening, so you should use that downtime to research. And
okay.
Something I do want to touch on, I was thinking about it, but I want to let you finish, about the stressing in the plants.
No, let's talk about it.
I saw Schwale post something about like putting pinholes into fan leaves, inducing some sort of like beneficial resin production in plants out of like a reaction even towards the plants around it, not even necessarily it itself getting stabbed.
Well, that's the plant Wi-Fi going on, and that's a very unscientific term that I created for myself last harvest season out there with the Who's Who crew. But essentially there is a form of communication in the air that plants can signal via like pheromone release or electrical connectivity through the, I don't know, I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to visualize this like data transfer from the tips of the tips of the leaves and the tips of the trees that were all around me at one point during harvest out there. And I do think that there is this sort of response that does occur between everything in a certain crop, or I guess a certain group of crops. I don't know how, but the plants really do seem to talk to each other.
There's a lot of the way that like mycelium in the soil can cause, like it shares nutrients within a plant.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things that are going on that we don't have the ability to quantify, or don't have like the proper, like we haven't. Yeah, I think there's a lot going on that we don't understand and know. If it's kind of difficult, but if somebody is doing a study on it, and they have a lot of like credibility, and they are taking the steps to isolate variables, like you have to pay attention when somebody is saying, hey, I'm doing something to this plant and this plant is seeing an effect from it. Like there's something going on.
And I just can't imagine that there wouldn't be. I mean, obviously, as a scientific community, we do understand the mycelial information transfer as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder, why, and I wonder why, of course, but I also wonder how can we really harness that to, I guess, maximize, or should we be focusing on damaging the plants to maximize resin production, or does that? I'm just wondering if there's like a point of diminishing returns, and
Right.
I guess it just takes time and experience to be able to find those things.
Well, back to that study that I saw Swale posting, it was like pinholes. They were barely like it wasn't
Like taking
much
a
of
little
a
needle,
exactly
poking through.
exactly
Yeah.
exactly. They were hardly doing anything to it.
Okay.
So
So maybe it's just like a cellular disruption causes a boost in some hormone that helps the plant heal.
mm-hmm.
And maybe that healing hormone has or set of phytochemicals has, and it's like when you introduce that into the growth of the plant, I guess it would positively impact how much resin it produces, especially when we're
Right.
thinking that, oh, I wonder, okay, I just thought about this. I wonder if causing those little micro damages tricks the plant into thinking that its life cycle is ending sooner and that it needs to get pollinated quicker. And the best way to capture pollen would be to produce more of that sticky resin. And
Possibly.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it senses some sort of imminent threat, and it is a biological reaction to it.
Yeah.
I feel really silly because it was a while ago since I've read it. But I'm sure the article does kind of touch it. It does have something to do with a hormone.
Nice.
I'm not totally, but like I said, I guess the main point in that is that it was affecting plants that weren't getting stabbed, which kind of goes into your point on there being some sort of plant Wi-Fi network or some sort of weave or something that we're trying to understand.
We can't, I think our senses filter it out, because if we were able to see that all the time, it would be very distracting and not conducive to our survival as a species. All the things that we've evolved have happened from caveman times, and we're not too far away from that in terms of our actual structure and how we perceive the reality around us. So yeah, there's got to be some sort of filtering thing that doesn't allow us to see that.
Well, it doesn't benefit us to see it, so we don't need to, and it like the same reason it can't speak English, it's because it's not necessary for it to survive. Like, we don't need to understand what's going on, we just want to.
Yeah. And I guess that's because it does help us get just like really insanely high quality resin at the end of the day. And that's I guess that's what we've searched for. We've gone from this, utilization of the fibers as like an industrious thing, and then maybe like a ceremonial aspects of the resin consumption, to now it's obviously like a positive part of a lot of people's lives, I think. And I think it's cool that as a community we have figured out how to truly chase after the highest quality expressions of the resin from the cannabis. Now, how would you define high quality resin? Like, what do you think makes a high quality hash?
Oh man, that is a very long question answer, I guess. High quality resin. Well, working backwards is it an enjoyable experience? Does it get you high? Does it taste good?
Mm-hmm.
Does it smell good? Is it harsh?
Okay.
How was it to dab? How was the experience of getting it from that jar into your nail? Did it clean good? Did it leave residue? There's just a lot of personal preference in that. I just kind of, I guess what I do is I work backwards and I put myself in the consumer's shoes, and I think, like, what are they going to look for? They're going to be looking for not average terps that kind of stand out. So a high quality is is Super Boof a high quality resin? Some people would say no. And like that's like something that we're not growing anymore, but like we did grow it. But
Is it not high quality because of they just don't particularly like that one? Now it's like, I'm sure if you were to look at the resin under a scope, those heads would probably be just as beautiful as other heads.
well,
I just wonder why people might think that. Like, do you think that any strain has the potential to produce high quality resin, or are certain strains better? Like, do they just make a better resin?
well, this is why the form people, like the G's from the form days.
Yeah.
This is why what they 1,000,000% had right. You got to find your cuts.
Okay.
And you got to kind of keep them close. You don't like part of being a high quality resin is having some sort of exclusivity. You know, like,
Okay.
is Super Boof high quality? Does it check a lot of boxes? Of course it does, but it doesn't check that unique box. It doesn't. It's
there's
not
a lot.
special.
There's a lot of different orange terps out there, and it's not particularly like the strongest or like the most psychedelic experience, or
Well, you can get it from everybody, and it's going to taste pretty
Yes.
similar. Like,
it
expresses itself a little bit different, but like,
I feel like even West Coast versus East Coast versus I don't know what coast, North Coast. I don't know what type of coast y'all would be up here.
Midwest.
Yeah. Midwestern terroir. I think that is definitely one of those ones that. But see, then that on the other side of that coin, though, because it's very consistent and people can achieve a good result with it, I wonder if that helps to add to some of the not to.
That's called a double. Well, that's a double-edged sword right there.
Okay, fair enough.
Because like then it gets to the point where like I have a lot of people that are like, I haven't really said that we're cutting Super Boof out. I'm sorry, guys, but there's a lot of people that are going to be upset about that.
Oh, this is the first time people are going to hear about this.
Yeah, it's just not like it's not worth holding on to something that everyone else can get.
And I think we spoke earlier about you seeing maybe trends in the market and wanting to deviate or differentiate yourself from those in some way. Do you think that that's important to long-term success?
Like even Oishi is one of my favorite strains in our stable, but like it hurts that so many people do grow it. It's a fantastic strain, but I want to, I'm not growing anything because I saw someone else growing it.
Right.
In fact, if I see someone else growing something, it makes me want to grow it less. The more I see Super Boof in jars, the less I want to grow it.
No, it's understandable.
I don't know what it is, and I know that there's consumers that feel the same way.
Well, maybe even as a grower and understanding the cost of labor and resources and light bills, whatever. The fact that you can probably get good examples of it. Why would you want to personally spend your own budget on creating something that it's like a dime a dozen? I understand that perspective completely. Yeah.
Well, Super Boof fans are burnt out on Super Boof. That's when you have to really be like, okay, no, it's like, and like most of our cuts are hunted in house.
Okay,
that's like one of the few. And once again, like some of our like just day ones just really like it. It's really big in Ohio. I don't know how it gets there, but it does.
I mean, there's all types of ways. Sometimes if people just think really hard, it just
but those guys really like it. But that, like, I care about, like, Michigan. Like, once again, sorry, guys. And I care about what I want. And I'm not smoking Super Boof. If I was smoking Super Boof anymore, like, maybe I would grow it. But, like, we just have, like... And that's, like, I'm not going to grow honey banana. Like, I can get honey banana if I wanted to, but I don't... Like, I hunted a different banana terp. One that, I got B.O.P from Schwale's drop, and I popped it immediately and had something a few months later. I wanted something that hopefully not many people like. Banana Shack was really hot. I almost got Banana Shack, but then we ended up grabbing these on that drop. But just wanted something like not super hot in the area that will still have like of course I want like a banana terp. I want like a Skittles terp. I want something
Right.
sherby, something orangey because I want to have something for everybody. And that kind of goes back to not letting my bias get in the way.
Yeah, just important.
But yeah, I kind of lost that train of thought.
Oh, it's all good. I wanted to ask you actually about how long do you think strains have before they get played out? Because you said that even Super Booth fans are burnt out on Super Booth. So
the less people that have it, the better. That's why the Form Cats held them so close for so many years, and they lasted that. Like the more like Chads and Jabronis start growing shit, the someone's gonna put out a mids pack of something that is your bread and butter.
That's a tragic moment when that happens.
Someone's gonna rename something. Someone's gonna rename a mids pack to your favorite strain. That's your bread and butter.
Not the LCGs becoming a Super Booth.
Yeah. So, and that's part of. It's like I don't know. That's when it's important to pay attention.
So I kind of get where you were going with that. It's kind of like once the saturation point is reached, it's sort of like this. You can only go downhill from there, and maybe especially as a single source hash maker, it's always important to focus on. You got to do market research, just like any other business out here. Yeah. You got to do market research and understand where things are going, and honestly, being able to predict things too, which is damn near impossible with cannabis. But it eventually, I feel like there will be that skill that gets developed, and now that we've got more access to information on what people are enjoying and being able to see real time, it's like the market is just opening up unlike any other point in U.S. history, I think. So, and I could be wrong, but I personally do think that a lot more people have access to especially hash rosin, which, I mean, if we go back like even 10 years ago, 2015, I don't remember seeing much, if any, hash rosin making it out to the East Coast.
In Michigan, there was a couple brands. We were one of them back in, I'm not totally sure the exact time we broke into it, but even in 2015, we hadn't started making hash rosin yet. But I feel like it was, I don't know. I don't want to say any names and be wrong, but I think there was a couple brands that had started doing it, but really no one was doing it until Soil Grown learned how to do it.
Okay. Talk a little bit about that. Why do you think so?
He was the first one to make rosin almost as we know it. I mean, there's the story, obviously. He took his wife's hair straightener, took some fucking flour and put it in a coffee filter and squished it and made like a tiny little dab, and like that kind of led to the rabbit hole of pressing flour and then eventually hash into rosin. That was like a pretty big pivotal moment. So like, and Marcus Bubbleman had a lot to do with really making that shift. Him and John were like in the hills, like in the snow, like putting snow in a bubble machine and like making fucking melt, and
ooh, I'd hate to look at that under the scope, but no one knew any better though at that time, right?
And they were doing that to make a point.
Okay,
that it's accessible.
Oh, I see. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean the like, of course, like we keep learning. But
I'm just wondering. I'm now, because I've tasted, like, I've definitely had lower quality rosins where you can tell that some point of the process has imparted a interesting flavor to the rosin. I wonder what that snow melt flavor would be like.
Man, I heard someone, I wouldn't do this. I heard someone one time say you can piss in your wash water as long as you rinse it good. So it all comes down to the rinsing of the hash.
Oh, man.
It's a euphemism. They don't really
I get it. No, I get it. But even still.
So a lot.
Yeah.
If you rinse your hash properly with very, very clean water, you would hope that a lot of those particulates just don't happen to be 90U.
Yep, you would hope so. Man,
Yeah.
I tell you what, I'm glad that that's not the case for a lot of hash makers out here today.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about digging into another one of these jars. Which flavor would you recommend over here?
Either the Gucci Beltz or the Oishi. Or, I mean, it's up to you. What kind of tends to be like your personal preference?
So I would say my preferences are never in rosin because I like haze and I like, well, I guess, like,
Okay.
I like OGs too. And those don't really wash. It's like but if I had to pick of what you got on the table right now, I would definitely I want to get a shot of the Gucci Belts because I know that I grabbed one of those whenever I ran into you at one of the Hareem events up here. Is that, is this an acceptable jar to
Yeah,
show
yeah.
on camera? Hell yeah.
One of these are just like my personal jars, so they've been floating around for a minute.
Oh, that's totally fine. That shows you the real thing.
I only personally got to keep a few jars of the Oishi and Gucci Belts for my last drop. So these are the last that I had. I've just been babying them.
Oh man, don't you hate that when you've got something? Oh, that looks really nice. That's that beautiful, nice sort of bounce. I would call that like a bouncy consistency. It's got a nice sheen on top of it. And this is the Gucci Belts from Hashcraft. Tell me a little bit about it. We talked about that genetic earlier, the RS11 to Rainbow Belt.
Yeah,
I don't remember if we talked about that on camera or not.
So that's Four Thumb Genetics. Yeah,
okay.
He's a Cali cat. That dude's he's pretty crazy. But that's like, I don't know if he spends much time breeding or if this was like a one of one situation. He had given the seeds to somebody I know that went out to Emerald Cup.
Okay.
That doesn't grow, and he gave me the seeds.
Oh, that's lucky.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a meant to be moment.
I wasn't expecting it to wash, but like the genetics were super fire. He's tied in. That's like it's actually RS11.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that made me really want to pop him.
And you could really tell, and it's got that like. I've always felt RS11 has this like sort of very dark cherry type of thing going on with it, and you definitely get it's like a cherry belt.
Yeah,
to me,
100%. I feel like his selection of Rainbow Belts 3.0 must be a little dosey heavy.
I get that in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which nothing wrong with that. In my opinion.
Right.
I as much as Z tastes great, I'm not the biggest fan of like dabbing it because it doesn't ever get me like where I need to go.
Okay.
Effect wise, and if I'm gonna breathe in any sort of thing that's not air, I definitely want to make sure that I'm getting like basically Stephen Hawking after I take.
Bro, yeah. I mean, we're all. I mean,
but that's a body chemistry thing.
What's up?
I think that's a body chemistry thing, though. I'm sure there are people out there that respond really well to Z.
Oh, yeah. Our Z Cross Oishi, that's like our Z in our garden, is, in my opinion, one of the stonier Z crosses I've experienced.
Okay.
That's kind of important to me also, making sure that I feel it. And that's something we touched on earlier, like, is something strong to me what you would consider strong? Like, everybody's looking for different effects.
Okay, so how do you define strong cannabis then?
I personally like it. I don't like getting tired. So something that, gets me tired is strong, but that's not quite what I'm looking for. Like,
are you going for the nail?
Yeah. But I would consider, when I feel it like pretty quick, right behind my eyes, I feel it kind of relaxing me.
Hits the shoulders nice.
Yeah. The euphoria is something that I really notice also in certain strains. Like some strains really can get me like in a really good mood when I dab them.
Yeah, and some don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works. And there's out of all the hundreds of chemicals that's in cannabis resin, it'd be really hard to identify like
which one's doing that.
Yeah.
So if it changes my mood, that's strong. If it if I feel it in my body, it's strong.
Right.
If I dab it and it tastes really good and I'm like not feeling it and like I'm like not really satisfied, that is something that will be grounds for removal from my stable also.
So if it doesn't have that punch to it, then it's gonna.
Yeah. No one likes spending their hard-earned money on weak resin.
No, I wouldn't say so. I think that's the reason we're all taking dabs too, is to like
feel the effect.
Like nobody wants to. When I started dabbing, the whole reason of dabbing is like, oh, this is how you get as high as possible, as quick as possible.
Right. No, it's like, hey, this is like super weed.
Oh yeah, man. I tell you what, that's like. When did you start dabbing? When did you take your first dab?
If I had to guess, 2011 or 12.
Hell yeah, me too.
My brother Mitchell, he got his med card like as soon as he's a few years older than me. I graduated high school in 2011.
Nice.
And like I started smoking younger than 14.
Yeah, me too. Don't do that, kid. Well, there's no kids watching this, but hey, adults don't do it.
Yeah. And I actually, it just so happened to be the day that I brought it. I'm not going to mention any names, but somebody who I know who you are snitched on us, and we all got suspended, and I had to go to the courthouse and drop and shit. They were like since I brought it, they were like shaking me down. How long? I'm not going to say where I got it.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I was like really closet smoker after that for a while.
Yeah.
And, like I really started, I grew for the first time in either like that 2011, 2012 period. And, started, that's when I think I made my Instagram around that time.
Okay.
And started seeing the community in it because, when I got like ostracized by a lot of my peers because it was like really taboo back in like 2007 to be smoking weed.
Oh, dude,
like, especially
like,
when you're a kid, everyone looked at me like I was like, a fuck up or whatever.
The social stigma, I mean, it's still not great to this day, but back then, it's just like...
Right. No, it's like...
You're a real criminal.
Well, that goes back to like making hash, like... That's something you just kind of have to accept, like everybody that was making BHO knows somebody that blew themselves up. I have close friends that with permanent scars. Yeah.
That I didn't.
I'm not. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not making that shit anymore, so I don't have to knock on wood.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm not either, actually. But just in case times get hard,
You know what? Yeah. But we were treated like felons. I mean, we were felons. We were. Yeah. It was if we were to get caught doing what we were doing, we wouldn't. It would not have been seen very kindly in the law, especially if you're not a snitch.
Oh yeah. Then for some reason they don't take kindly to just keeping your mouth shut. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something you kind of like. I'm glad to be out of now. Like the stigma's gone. I make hash in a much more environmentally friendly and safer way.
Yes. See, that's one thing people really don't ever talk about. It's the environmental impact of BHO production.
Oh yeah, it's overlooked.
Yeah.
Like I filter my own water. Like I run it through 3 filters and then it hits an RO just to make sure that like my hash is getting rinsed with the cleanest possible water
as you should.
I possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
But I live on a well, so like even my water's single source.
Yeah.
It's not, and that's not easy. It's not easy to get well water to 0 ppm and be totally fucking. Like,
no, especially like up, in Michigan, I know that there was a lot of, industry and especially, down in the southeastern part of the state, a lot of wells have unfortunately been contaminated with like PFAS and all different types of things.
100%. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Testing's cheap.
Yes, it is, and important too. Damn near, actually, I would say necessary.
If you want, there's just a lot of steps you have to take to make responsible product. That a lot of people kind of cut corners. That's something that we kind of touched on earlier. I'm not sure if we talked about that on camera or not.
Well, I do know that cutting corners is something that does regularly happen, and not only this industry, but every single industry that people have ever decided to create. And I had to look up and make sure there wasn't like a smoke detector in the room for a second. I was like, oh no. But it really does kind of play into greed. I will say that, absolutely. Man, you took such a big dab. I lost my train of thought for a second just watching the cloud you blew out. Which one did you just dab on?
That was Gucci Beltz.
Nice.
I can't get tired of Gucci Beltz. I can't get tired of Resin.
So what would you say is like your preference on like flavor in genetics?
This might be a Michigan thing since we're so late to it. I am so crazy about Z. When Beltz was hot, I was crazy about Beltz. I try not to get too into that. I like flour, just something really, really gassy, something really OG, or like.
Y'all aren't too far from Ohio. Y'all ever get that Death Star flour back in the day?
We grew, me and my brother grew Death Star back in 2015, I want to say.
Nice.
That was when it was like, if you're not growing cuts, you're fucking up. So we were fortunate enough to be networked in with some really awesome people that shared some cuts that, we would die with, that goes like, if you get these cuts, if you're even tempted to give them out, don't fucking take them, because you're doing the whole industry a disservice.
There's a certain responsibility, you'd say, that comes with that.
Oh yeah, that is like that's why people rename shit and like call stuff one thing that it isn't. But like, I don't know, man.
Do you think that the renaming in that instance really isn't done out of disrespect? It's more to preserve the actual whatever it is about a particular genetic? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
There's no real telling. We'd have to dig inside the minds of the people actually doing it, I think.
Yeah. That's tough. I don't know. We try really hard not. We've renamed one thing one time, and I'll never do it again. We found two keepers of our B.O.P, and that we called our secondary keeper mod B.O.P. While we were trying to figure out which one we were keeping. It's like a modified B.O.P.
I did enjoy that one though. It sort of had this mothballish quality to it, like a real like pungent funk.
Yeah, it's that like
regular B.O.P.
The Jomo in it, but that's Schwale. Me and him kind of talked about it, and I see his point. It's tough, but I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. Sometimes you have to do things to realize that you're not going to do it again, right?
Well, and like we talked about this earlier. I respect the breeder above all.
Yeah,
they're pretty high up there in the pyramid for me.
Why is that?
Because they are doing all of the work to give us these genetics. Like, I might go through 50 seeds to find a keeper, but it's because of them that I have those 50 seeds. We're all standing on, like, unless you're going and getting these landrace strains and you're fucking doing all that shit, you're standing on someone else's shoulders, and the breeder's shoulders are who I'm standing on in that regard.
I'm glad that you actually pay respects and give give sort of like giving the people out there listening sort of an awareness of how important that actually is, because there's a lot of people I think that would be more than happy to be like, oh, this is all me. I did this.
Yeah, you did. You picked something out of a pack that someone worked their ass. I mean, breeding takes years. To do it right, it takes so long.
If you
different
like than just crossing.
And I get it. Like, I like to follow B.O.P back. Like it's a
Yeah.
creation of one of his creations of one of his creations. Like that's like his legacy. So like I could see why someone that would be like someone taking my rosin and repackaging it and selling it.
That's
Like,
which I'm
so
sure
you
that
know,
not for you, but I'm sure that happens to a lot of different brands out here.
even something
yeah.
you never know. Even something as innocent as calling it mod bop. I understand why that might not have.
Just been the best decision at the time.
Yeah. But
hey, live and learn, right?
Yeah. It sucks because it really stuck, and like it was our non-keeper, but like we had it, so like I wasn't expecting it to kind of hit as much as it did. So now a lot of people recognize it as that, but he just asked that we put something on the packaging.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think that it hurts you in any way to do so. And if anything, that helps give, I hate to say it, but people love packaging, I think. Like people love jar art. People
Yeah, they
love
do.
having things to read and look at and interact with the jar. Do you think that we can actually, this would be a great way to sort of segue into the art design of these jars. How important do you think it is to have like an impactful design for your jar?
It is of the utmost. You have to have some sort of brand recognition.
Right.
Nothing is more important than picking good genetics. And then after that, nothing is more important than growing it as good as you can.
Okay.
And then obviously extracting it. But why keep passing that baton just to stop at the finish line? Like now you have the opportunity to put your hard work into something that like, this little package that you're proud of. Like why just slap it into a jar and throw it out? Like I get where a lot of people are coming from. And like I think it's important to have some sort of brand identity too. Like don't make it soulless. Like not like our packaging does this. If you covered up Hashcraft and Oishi and like all the verbiage and stuff on it, like it doesn't look like a cannabis brand. And that's kind of like, make it unique, make it about you personally. Like these are the skeletons on here, they're actually liches from Dungeons and Dragons. Like not that many people know that.
I definitely didn't. That's tight.
But also like I'm like a metalhead, and like I like the aesthetic of it. It kind of looks like it's, I guess what I'm getting at is like you can make cool packaging without selling out. My wife does all of our design in-house. Not everybody is fortunate enough to have that. Lily is amazing. She does an incredible job.
Yeah.
And part of that identity is like, if you look at our jars, we tried to make it identifiable as a brand from jar to jar. So we kept the same design, but every lich is like a different color. So like B.O.P is like a yellow one. Oishi is like Skittles, more rainbowy. It's got like the rainbow effect going on. It Gucci Beltz has like that like red and green going on, and then it's got like actually on there it's like the Gucci.
Oh, you got like
Yeah, there's a little nods and stuff to the strain.
Yeah.
There, and like that's partially inspired by, because obviously it's its own thing, but like brands like Feel Good LA. That smiley face is it's so recognizable, and like it's the way that he changes the colors to represent different strains. If it's Halloween, there's a little fucking pumpkin feel good. It's Christmas, here's a little snowman feel good jar.
Right.
It creates like that recognition, and like that you kind of like that one's special though. I really like shout out Feel Good LA. Those yeah.
Do you think that it's sort of like it gives you an opportunity to also like communicate your values and just who you are to the like it's like that 1 second that someone takes to look at the jar? It's like this instant perception. So it's like, oh man, see, there's a husky hair just floating around. I don't know how that got up here. Man, I tell you what, it's cool as fuck to just see like I've always been appreciative of, I guess, packaging for hash in general. It seems like it's this sort of like, you know, art that's only accessible via a certain way. And I've always had this idea. I think I talked about it in the last episode of like a museum for like jar art. Do you see that ever being a thing?
It should. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
Like, how cool would that be to be able to like go in, see like it's like they have like, the whole history of how cannabis packaging evolved. It's like we haven't been using the same jars even, and so because of that, the art has changed even to evolve with the packaging.
People that have like warehouses filled with pinball machines that they personally own and like start museums. I feel like it would be some shit like that.
I think so.
Or like the James Dean Museum where it's like some person owns this house and like or something like that. But yeah. That's funny because we put so much effort into it and like some of them are just so tight and it's just it's like I take a lot of inspiration from like brewery and the way that they do their wraps and stuff. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, every consumable item is designed to be thrown away.
Unfortunately, yes.
So that's just I don't know. That's funny. We do merch. My brother actually runs and owns No Mids Clothing. He and I don't go to him just because he's my brother. Genuinely, his embroidery jobs are so fucking fire. I almost wore my hoodie today, but I was like, should I wear my own brand's shit on a podcast?
Oh, absolutely. People do it all the time.
I know. No Mids Clothing. We're doing some collabs with him. The actual quality is super, super high though. That's why I do work with him. Nice. I am kind of uncompromising and like I've never been unsatisfied from something that he's done as far as like just the quality of it above all else.
Man, I tell you what, that's cool as fuck to sort of have like a whole in-house team beyond design. It's just a team that sort of works and functions together and seems to have there's this like unspoken communication maybe that even occurs because y'all have been around each other so long. It's like it's a good mix.
Me, Mitchell, Lily, and I have all worked together since I want to say like 2016, 2017 is when Lily started working with us, my wife. And then before that, Mitch has been there. Me and Mitch have been doing shit together since like 2012, since my beginning. He was doing it before me even.
Yeah.
So we've only just recently kind of just been like, doing our own things. But it is nice to still have that, like you said, like, now we are kind of helping each other grow in that regard. Like, and we kind of know what to expect from each other. Like you said, like, just from working together for so long.
Nice. Well, obviously you can see it all right here. That's the culmination of it all. And there is one thing I wanted to discuss though, before we wrap up for the evening. Let's talk a little bit about the transition you'll be making with the jars and maybe why you're making that transition.
Well, I love the size of Pop-Vacs. I love like the actual like physical container size of the Pop-Vac. I like that it has like smooth walls and everything. However, I'm kind of over the lid, over the pop.
Why?
It does serve a purpose. It does create like an airtight seal where nothing is going to escape. And better so than other brands like Mirons. However, the margin isn't that incredible, and it achieves that by pulling a vacuum. When you pull that vacuum, you are changing the volatility of those terpenes. The most sensitive terpenes are now getting pulled out of your rosin. They're not evaporating into the air. No, you're right. They are staying in the jar. But like, yeah, like literally any of these jars, like there's just a little thin ring of terps.
See if we can see that on camera.
Yeah, like on all of these, there's just a little thin layer of terps.
Oh, yep, you can see it right there.
Yeah. You don't get that in Mirons.
No.
You don't.
And also, I have worries maybe about the material that pop is made out of. Is it 100% safe? And does it degrade? Well, does it degrade after being exposed to all the different, like?
It's a proprietary blend. Supposedly it's inert.
Okay.
That is a good thing to bring up, though.
I know the Mirons are supposed to be safe as far as like interacting with the VOCs that are off-gassing. So I didn't know if you happen to know anything about it. It's totally,
yeah, they have.
Totally, I mean, you're not the manufacturer, so I don't know if you would or not.
Well, and that's what's tough is like I'm sold on Pop-Vacs, other than the fact that like maybe for flour or maybe like rosin where it's like exposed resin isn't the best thing. Maybe like melt or something where it still has like that cuticle to protect. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just like I can't unsee it. And I think it would be a disservice to people that enjoy my product that have brought it up to me to not address it and do something about it.
Yeah,
it's a great jar, but I don't think it's right for our product anymore.
I mean, I feel like as a brand, you have to make decisions like that in order to be able to, maintain that level of quality that you want to achieve with every single jar.
Right. I'm not that type of person where I'm like, this isn't the brand. The name isn't the brand. The logo isn't the brand. Nothing is the brand aside from like the rosin inside of it. The product itself needs to speak above all else.
Oh yeah.
And if I'm not putting it in the best jar to my knowledge, then I am not being honest. Like how can I sell this how can I want people to see this as an ultra premium product if I'm not taking every step that I know is right to make it that? Like it's tough.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's truly, the decisions made in that regard are what separate a good brand from every other brand out here on the street or in the store.
Right. And it's like it sounds like such a silly thing to put so much thought into. What jar are you putting it into? Well, these decisions keep me up at night, folks. Like I want the best. I stay up until 3-4 in the morning hunting seeds and following the lineage and seeing if it's going to finish within the window I need it to. Is it going to be stretchy? Is it resinous? Like, is it unique? And I'm looking at some of the like names in our area, making sure I'm not growing the shit that's going to like step on toes or like, trying to carve that unique profile and flavor. So like every decision to me is worth overthinking when I don't know. Not many. That's I guess the burden you bear as being like it's just like I said, me and my wife. Like so, someone's got to make these decisions, and I take every decision serious.
Yeah. Well, man, I really appreciate that you do that, and that there is so much intention that's put into every single one of these jars. Even though these aren't my personal preferences for a jar that I would grab for my own like consumption on a daily basis because I'm a gas smoker.
Exactly, yeah.
These are excellent examples of the genetics, and I do think that, I mean, you killed it. Like, those are, in my opinion, some of the better, I guess, like Z, dosey, sort of fruitier terps,
Right. And that's just kind of what we brought today. Like, we have Key Lime Rainbow from Kenjana that just reminds me of just that old cookie.
Oh, sort of like this like doughy, buttery.
Yeah, I'm hunting some incognito genetics, some Death Star, some
Nice.
Sensi Star crosses.
Oh, that's a good one too. Yeah.
So like, I feel like a lot of people these days attribute gas to GMO, and like I feel
It's
like
one of them.
yeah. So I'm trying to find something gassy that I like. That not that I don't like GMO. It's just not what like. Not getting into that. I'm talking about.
Hey, oh man,
yeah.
he held off till now to tell me he didn't like that. Oh no.
GMO. It's just. I do like it. It's just I don't know. It's played out.
Like
but
you maybe appreciate what it is, but it's not like something that you
it's
would
frustrating
pick for like your daily.
GMO itself. Fire. It's frustrating how much it comes across in crosses.
Yes. Oh, we just
and I
talked
feel like
about
some
that
people
on the
feel
last
like that
episode.
about Skittles also.
Yeah. That well.
Like some people are so
Yeah.
Z elitist that if it's not the best expression of Z, that's why like I hesitate to enter Oishi into competitions, even though that shit. If it wasn't for the Z bias, like I'd put my Oishi up against anybody's Oishi.
I would too.
Like it's not gonna win a national competition because it's not the best. It's not that cut of Skittles that people are looking for. That's how so that's kind of how I feel about GMO. If it's not real GMO, if it's a GMO cross, it just sometimes tastes like diet GMO.
Absolutely. With like it's like the Fresca where it's like this is a GMO that was grown next to like a fucking whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
and like that's the Michigan bias. We were actually fortunate enough to like back in the day run some GMO that Notorious THC had run. I think this was in 2015. Because it was just a phenochem cookie or whatever. He was like, "Yo, we're gonna call this shit super hot. We're gonna call this GMO," and we were like, "But it's like a pheno of like chem." We ignorantly just put chem cookie on the packaging, but like it's actually like it's in the archive of photos, like the old nectar collector days when we had run that shit. But I don't know. We were just exposed to really good GMO back in the day. Matty B Stackers, like in the 2015, 2016 days, maybe even a little later, 2017, even like that. I've just been spoiled by like some of the best expressions of GMO.
Maybe it's like after that, it's like
man,
stack up.
I don't even remember what we were talking about that like made me get on this tangent about.
Oh, listen, I don't even know either. I think the hash might be doing its job.
Oh yeah, gases.
There's OG. There's like that fucking there's like the.
So I'm trying to find a non-GMO funky gas that I think everybody's gonna love. Death Star is really hot. So I'm trying to find, I don't want to just run Death Star. I don't want to run the same Death Star crosses that everybody's
Maybe
running.
It's more malleable, though, and more accepting of other variances of flavor and experience from other shit, so it could be good breeding stock.
Possibly.
Okay.
Especially, so what we're running from Incognito, it's, I say it like, it's just such, I just popped the seeds. They're like fucking this tall right now, but it's in the works. It's Death Star cross to Sensi Star, and I mean Death Star is Sensi Star across a Sour Diesel, so it's borderline like a Sensi Star back cross. Okay. He did Incognito did a lot of like genetic preservation breeding projects where he like got the actual Ohio Death Star and like back crossed it and created some seed stock. He did the same thing with Sensi Star. He's like a form OG. So like getting that's really important to me also, getting genetics from people who I know where they're getting it from.
Oh, I mean, even beyond just accuracy of genetics, like you're exposing a grow to so many different vectors for contamination if you don't know where those are coming from either. So it's like, indoor or outdoor, that's important.
Yeah. You gotta know your breeder knows this shit. And that's why like the breeders that I pick, I know their shit, and that's why I once again they're up on the podium, because like, man, it takes a lot of work to do it right, to make sure you're getting your cuts where, and like we talked about you seeing a lot of hash makers transitioning into breeding. It's because like, I mean, that's something that I plan on eventually doing also. Like, I'm working hard to get all of these washers that I know are vetted, and like, you know, you might get Oishi, but you're not going to get this Oishi. You might get B.O.P, but it's not going to be our B.O.P. Like,
Yep.
Now that I'm getting all these really unique profiles, it would almost be an injustice to not pass the baton that was passed on to these breeders. Like, that's what this is all about. Like, let's keep it going. Like, we keep getting all these genetics that are like elite in our eyes. Like, let's fucking go. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things that could be had out of it, and then also like I feel like that's where it gets tricky, is like finding, like, I really like this Oishi. Maybe I don't want to breed it with something that's been bred with a million times. Maybe I want to find like a land race or something, like a few S's out that might have potential to hash or whatever. Like,
I mean,
and that's like where we're going to find the next.
You know, that's where hash came from. Is these, if you go back far enough, you know,
right? It's not like, oh no, we just bred two plants together that now hash is created. Like, no, this fucking plant's
people
been
have
used.
Smoking hash.
Exactly.
They
like
found
this
a hash pipe in China that's like, I think over 1,000 years old at this point.
Yeah, resin has been consumed and enjoyed by humans basically since the beginning of like recorded history.
Dude, it's tight.
Like, everyone's got it. Every culture's got it.
It's a shame to not have it.
It's in every region, borderline naturally, like everywhere except Antarctica. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you know, one day someone will breed some crazy cold resistant. Probably one of those people up in the UP go and create some Antarctica weed up there. You know,
man, I don't want it.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair. It finishes in 25 days.
We'll find out it's been ruderalis the whole time.
Oh no, always has been. Oh fuck. Man, I tell you what, that's one thing that I hope I've never smoked is, well, I guess if you smoked an autoflower, you smoked ruderalis type genetics, right? Isn't that sort of like how I'm not, listen, I'm over here
Bro, I don't know.
like I know what I'm talking about with that shit.
I was fortunate enough, like, even in 2007, like there's some cats out there that have been doing good things, fighting the good fight since I'm just passing the torch.
Yep.
So I've always been exposed to really good quality cannabis.
Good.
Not that ruderalis or autoflowers aren't, but I don't know if I've ever smoked ruderalis.
I don't know if I have either. I guess it's maybe that's what I'll do on episode 1000 of Terpene Therapy. I'll hunt down a ruderalis.
There's a lot of people doing it justice. That like Jeremy Silva's always fucking around with autoflowers and shit.
You know, I feel like they have potential to just get better and better as people work with it, just like any other thing with cannabis, right? It's like the more
it's like
energy and love put into it, the more fire will come out.
Yeah, and like that's what I love about cannabis and why it's like an all-consuming hobby and profession and passion. Is once you get tired of, like, let's say you got your grow locked in or whatever, and now you get to hunt genetics. Let's say you got your genetics locked in, like, okay, address your packaging. Okay, you got that locked in, like, you're probably going to be, if you're doing everything yourself like I am, you're going to, like, now, I don't know, maybe it's time to do another pheno hunt. Like, let's watch some videos and see how this dude's doing it. Like, oh shit, I saw like Fueled by Full Melt doing avocado tech for the first time in like 5 years, so I did it. Like, shout out to him for doing that. Like, like there's just always like, I don't know, watch your peers and watch and keep doing what's working for you. I feel like it's just the recipe, but never stay stagnant. Always stay curious. There's always somewhere to improve, and like, I feel like that's the beauty of working with like a no-till soil versus like a sterile, like AB salt type shit. It's like you can't get that dialed into where maybe you don't want to fuck with it too much. But for me, it's like, what kind of ferment do I want to run this round? Like, let's start throwing this into my compost tea. It's it's Tea Tuesday. Let's put a little extra craft blend in there and a little less worm castings, or like, just there's just so much to do in organic gardening, and I think that's why the passion also carries through.
Yes.
Just, I don't know, if you start making ferments, you start getting into KNF, and like, I don't know.
I mean,
it's a never-ending road. Yeah.
Yeah.
My first
God, I love it.
super soil grow with my brother was in 2015. And I met
when you say super soil, is that like the subcool super soil, or is this a different?
No, it was actually Coots Mix.
Coots Mix. Okay, shout out Coots Mix.
Yeah, shout out Clackamas Coot, obviously. But that was sourced by Jeremy Silva. It's kind of in the beginning. In my Instagram somewhere, I actually there's like a picture of the cherry pie, and you can see I don't know. So it's like I kind of fell in love with it and knew that was the way that I wanted to do it. The flavor is kind of undeniable, and just the fact that you're creating like an environment, an ecosystem. I have like worms that I can like check my worm population. I can see how my predator mites are doing. Like, I'm such a nerd that I just love that shit. Like,
it's almost like it's like a fish tank thing.
It's a worm farm. I have a fish tank, a saltwater tank. It crashed recently.
It's unfortunate.
I was doing some fish sitting, and it didn't go good, and it wrecked my tank.
Yeah, it happens.
Don't take other people's fishing. What was I getting at?
Organic gardening, why it's so beautiful, and why the passion just seems to be. There's so many new things to learn.
Yeah, and now I care about like my worms and how they're doing and the health of my worms. Like,
I just put in some worms into my pots for the first time, and I gave them little halves of avocados. They seem to love them.
So that's just something that like. So I run, my worm population is about 2 years old at this point. Just 4x4 living soil beds. I'm still running like a modified Coots Mix. Just the soil gets better over time. Like, I'm putting different ferments in, and like putting different micronutrients in and mixing that up. Like, that the worm population, once that builds up, you're depositing earthworm castings, and the type of worms, we get the red wigglers because they crawl around the root zone, and they actually don't disturb the roots themselves, but they eat all of the dead decomposing shit around them and deposit those worm castings like directly in your roots. And now when you're watering, like, that's like feeding your plant essentially. Like, these systems just keep improving over time, and the more you do to just keep that soil alive and create that, the more like it's almost like keeping plants becomes the secondary to keeping that soil alive, because that soil is the catalyst to great plants.
The reason I've always sort of enjoyed, I guess, organic and living environment cannabis. I guess it's because of there's this concept I've always had in my brain that the best resin comes from an environment that is so fire that the weed can't help but to be good.
Right. Well, that's like, as a grower, your flower is only as good as your environment allows it to be. Like, you can't make it better than it can naturally grow. Like hash making, you can only preserve its integrity and actually make it worse. As a hash maker, you're trying your best not to make that resin worse, not better. If that's your mentality, then you're going about it wrong, in my opinion. You everything you're doing, you're making your hash worse, and you got to figure out how to not do that.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the fucking hardest part right there.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not making it better. So, and your plant, and that's why I said, like, at the end of the day, it's the soil in an organic environment's the most important, and your lighting and your climate, obviously, but because, that's your limiting factor. If you're going to say, okay, I'm not force feeding this plant, I'm going to allow this plant to uptake and grow as naturally as possible, then, your focus needs to be on that soil. Don't worry, your plant growing is going to be a benefit of monitoring your soil's moisture content constantly, like checking your beneficials population. You have to make sure that your worms are doing okay. You have to make sure that you still have predator mites, and like pull back that cover crop and like sit there and stare at your dirt to make sure that you don't see any, like, it takes a while to like focus in on that. Like, there's a lot of dirt and like environment keeping. It's kind of like an ant farm, but it's a worm farm and a bug farm.
I always think of this song that I heard when I was out with the Who's Who crew. It's called Wormlands, and every single time I look at them crawling around down there, I always hear it in my head. I think that it's a wonder. It's like it's these little microcosms that we are creating, and we get to play like, controller of the environment in a sense on the indoor scale. Do you ever have any plans to transition to any like outdoor crops or anything like that, or is it mainly just the indoor for the future?
I don't know. I'm not desperate to like, create a bunch of capital. I'm just trying to do my thing. So as of right now, no, because that's just more work and it's not something I'm passionate about. But possibly, I like if I did outdoor for anything, it would be for breeding, and it would like basically be, the weed would get trashed.
Yeah. Well, so how do you feel about sun-grown resin versus indoor resin in terms of quality? Do you think that sun-grown resin can be as clean and as fire as indoor resin?
I think light depth is ultimately the way to go.
So sort of like protection.
If you want that outdoor benefit, because you need to have that protection. And I think that's what a lot of people refer to when they say outdoor. There are people that just have exposed plants. And if you live in an area where that's possible, that's tight. But I live in Michigan, where the time of year where you want to hold out and give your plants one more week is always the wettest fucking week of the year.
I mean, people are panic chopping every year.
And that doesn't seem fun. It's not a problem if you're in a light depth or a greenhouse, but if you don't have climate control and you can't control that humidity, like your plant, like, I don't know, it's not, maybe. If I could find some sort of like passion and joy out of it, maybe.
That's fair. That's a fair perspective.
Yeah. That just seems like a big old stress. Like I want to, like I said, I want to take that torch and I want to breed next. I could see, using a small outdoor space to breed.
Instead of having to clean that room after the pollen's released.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Okay. It's if all of the flour is going to go to waste, it just seems like the best time to do it. Like when you're not, it's basically like the energy from the sun is free. You don't have to pay for a light bill or anything, and like pay for nutrients in the soil. Like it seems like just like the most cost effective. I mean, you do have to amend your soil. Like you can't just throw them in your backyard or whatever, but I feel like I'm not a big fan of the quality of outdoor or light depth necessarily.
In terms of smokable flour or resin?
Resin.
Okay.
That's a little bit of a hot take. I could be proven wrong.
Yeah.
I think that there's a sun terp that maybe I'm crazy, but I think I might be able to pick up on a little bit. It's not necessarily a bad thing. it's undeniable that outdoor resin wins competitions a lot of times, though. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is
look at the baked taters though coming through fucking.
Oh, and their melt's really good.
Yeah, shout out to Courtney and Andy. They're
killing it as far as I'm concerned. And not only that, willing to have a conversation and be transparent about what they do. As far as just being willing to talk about things, and I think that's a good thing personally.
That's the way to be a brand and maintain integrity.
Yeah,
that's why people fuck with them so much.
Yep.
Because, I mean, obviously the quality is above all else.
Well, you gotta have that.
Yeah. Everyone loves taters.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as people.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that there's something to be said about supporting brands that are people you'd want to hang out with too. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And that sometimes it gets a little difficult because, it's
all different.
Cannabis used to be such a counterculture, and like the types of people that are into it in 2025 are not all like peace and love and like doing it for the plant anymore.
I don't know if
some of the
people
think
it's ever been that way though.
No, not to an extent. I mean, that's a good point. Like there's obviously like there's money involved in it, but like there's a responsible way to do it. And I think that recently, and I say recent, like the last 10 years, because there's been people in it way, way longer than me, and I'm not ignorant to that. It's just getting a little more like Chad-esque.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is an unfortunate part of the integration into the greater society as a whole, though. I think that you're just gonna have that.
Well, it used to take like balls to be in this industry.
Yeah.
Like I said, I used to drive around like knowing that like if I get fucking pulled over, it's over. It's over. And
you're telling me
it's not like that anymore. Like unless like once again, like when you're doing it all yourself, like you don't got anyone to tell on.
That is true.
Like
it's like, hey, I don't know,
So then that's like you gotta be careful about that. Like everything is legal if you do it right.
Yeah.
You just don't, and like I move slow and stay, don't be too hungry. And that's part of why I'm hesitant to get, like, I don't want to be giant. I want to do this and still enjoy it and like pay my bills. I'm not trying to become a millionaire. It'd be nice, but like it's not going to happen.
Well, I do think that there's a reason to chase after these, like, it almost is like allowing, we were talking earlier about greed and how that, plays into our DNA and things like that. And I wonder if like chasing after those things decreases the sustainability and positive mental aspects of certain things in life. You know what I mean?
Some people dream at night of building their brand and their business. So
could just be different.
For me personally, yes, but for a lot of these people, that's what they like live for. And those are the types of people that like you can go make money selling oranges. Get out, like go fucking like go back to your industry. Like they're like, I don't know. I try not to be like that because there's a lot of people coming from industries that do deserve to be here.
That's fair.
But like if you're
every case is individual.
Just stay humble. Like like. Don't race to the bottom.
Oh, that doesn't benefit anyone.
Yeah, if you race into the bottom is just like tomorrow is way more important than today.
I read something one time that said that the strongest things are built by, or like the strongest, I guess what is it? The strongest societies are made by people who plant trees that they'll never sit under.
Right. Well, I mean,
it's like, creating positivity and sustainability. And it's like, that's on a societal scale, but that can be scaled down to the individual as well.
Think about the baton you're passing. Like going back to that, like,
even the baton you're passing yourself in the future.
Well, yeah. Or like you said, like if you're plant that tree that you'll never see grow because someone else is going to benefit from it. Not everything needs to be like, I want, obviously I'd be really happy to like breed something that somebody fell in love with, and
Yeah.
like that's my goal, and like how I want to ultimately contribute is by bringing, like I said, all these genetics that I've acquired and I'm never going to stop acquiring, and like doing something special with them to see. Just it would be doing a disservice to the plant not to.
That's a beautiful way to say that.
Yeah.
It really is.
Plant wants to grow and evolve. That's why it all is so viable together.
Man, I'll tell you what, and it's like this complex relationship that's just happened over thousands of years between humans and cannabis, and
Right.
we're just seeing.
It's no
we're
coincidence.
just in one of the most dynamic times for it right now. We're seeing the most exponential growth in terms of availability, wideness of the spectrum of genetics that people have experiences with too, and just in general, like I think it's a beautiful time, even though there might be like, you know, for all the extremes of bad and good within cannabis, it is a beautiful time to see it and see what it is, especially like in the US and our particular cannabis markets that we have.
Yeah. There's a million different directions this could have gone and went, and
It still can go.
this isn't the worst one.
Nope. Well, man,
as of right now.
I'll tell you what, I really appreciate you taking the time to come over here and share your perspectives, your rosin. Oh, here, I'll shake your hand too. Why not? And I tell you what, fucking rig's tight as shit. It seems like there's a lot of those bots floating around.
Yeah. So Bug Glass, he's actually.
Got to give a shout out to Bug Glass real quick. He's had a couple shout outs on this podcast so far.
Yeah, he's a Michigan-based artist.
Yeah.
It's just a little beaker bot, 2016. I got it new from Puff Factory, so shout out to them.
Well, hell yeah. Man, I really appreciate it. This has been OG Hashcraft over here at the tiniest Terp Table we've had so far. And I guess I'll see each and every one of y'all next week for another session of Terpene Therapy.